Hi and welcome to yet another episode of the WhoTubeShow. And tonight I've got a guest. It's John. How are you, John?
I'm fine, thank you, Phil.
Great. That's good to hear. And tell me, John, straight away, really, when did you start getting into Doctor Who and why?
Well, it's almost been part of my sort of culture. I always remember watching it going as far back as early Tom Baker's. It was something that as a family we would watch.
Right.
But then towards the end of Tom Baker's run, it's quite a few things happened in my life. I lost a parent, and Doctor Who suddenly became more important. And the really thing that got me into it was the books. Somebody bought me a copy of Destiny of the Daleks for my birthday.
Right.
And then we were going on holiday the following year, and my dad took us into a shop, and sort of said me and my sister could each pick a book. And I saw on the shelf the copy of Horror of Fang Rock. Now, I remembered watching it. In back of my mind, I remember seeing that episode when I was younger, because I'd only been at 8 at the time. But seeing the cover and remembering back to that episode, I need to read that book. And I took it away with me on holiday. And by the Tuesday, I'd already gone to the shop opposite the bed and breakfast where I was staying and ended up buying Robots of Death. And after that, I was hooked. And I've collected all the Target books. I've read all the New Adventures, the Missing Adventures. I actually probably read more Doctor Who than I watch.
Oh, right. Okay. There's certainly plentiful of books, weren't they, back in the day?
Well, they were the only way you could understand what had come before, because Doctor Who video of physical media was just at the point where videos were beginning to come out, but they were really, really expensive. The first cassettes were like £25 for the edited versions of things like Revenge of the Cybermen, and that I didn't have that sort of money, so it wasn't until the videos became much more available that I saw a lot of those. But I'd read all the books, so I felt that I knew them. What it doesn't tell you is that the books, a lot of the time, actually flatter the source content, because Terrance Dicks and some of the other writers, but particularly Terrance Dicks, he is remarkably adept at telling a story extremely efficiently, but also keeping the interest there. And you don't get the occasionally dodgy special effects, suspect guest star actors, and it's they're just great stories to read, and that has been such an important part. But when you do get to see them, it makes you think about the stories in a different way. The books that I've enjoyed are not necessarily the TV episodes that I've enjoyed.
Yeah, well, books traditionally anyway have more in them. So if you're like a reader of Stephen King, for instance, then his books and match them up to the movies, the books have far more in them. And I guess with books, it can explain things slightly better.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of adaptations, and a lot of the time, particularly in film, I think film adaptations don't have enough time to tell the stories in the books.
True.
But I'm currently I'm watching the Foundation series on Apple, and now I read Foundation quite a long time ago, So I know enough about the story to be interested, but not enough to sort of pick up on detail. And what they've done is they've actually expanded a lot of the characterization, because Foundation was just snippets of a history, and they've tried to create a continuum. And it's, if you're an absolute purist, there's a lot in there that wasn't in Asimov's books, and they've changed quite a lot. But if you're someone who enjoys intelligent SF on TV, then what they've done makes absolute sense.
Right. You are right. There just isn't enough time, though, is there?
No.
It's just the way it is. Right. Let's just first of all explore some of your favourites, and people will know from the last couple of episodes that I've done top fives with people. So we'll be doing that in a moment. But first of all, I've got a few questions asking about your favourites, and if you can tell me who they are or what they are, and then maybe a few sentences really of why you feel that way. So we start off with your favourite companion, and this can be from that. And we're talking about, whenever I ask you a question, we're talking about the entire Doctor Who.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So your favourite companion?
I'm probably going to say Perry. I just enjoyed that whole. I just really I thought Nicola Bryant was great. She didn't get the best stories, but as a character, I really liked her.
Cool. What about spin-offs? We've had a few.
I've not really watched many of the spin-offs. I didn't bother with Torchwood. I've seen a couple of episodes of Sarah Jane Adventures, which what I saw was quite good. But when my daughter was growing up, she was just the wrong age to watch the Sarah Jane Adventures. She was a little bit old when they came out, and it didn't, well, one of the things she got into. So the only one I've really seen is K9 and Company. I've not watched Class, and I'm holding off on the new one that's coming out.
Oh yeah,
Between the Land and the Sea, because the last two series there have been some issues.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the War Between Land and Sea, mainly because I'm a fan of Russell Tovey, to be honest.
It's got some good acting. I've just found out Adrian Lucas is in it, so it will be interesting to watch. I will give it to the time of day, but if it's not good, then I don't think we lost anything, apart from it's 8 episodes that Disney, we promised to Disney, and delivered. And could we have had a third series?
Yes, true. Well, let's see what happens with that one. It's all up in the air. By the time this show comes out, we might know. So people know we're probably 4 weeks away from. We're doing this and recording this 4 weeks away from when it's going to be shown. So we might be talking about a potential third season, but actually, it's already been decided, and we sound daft talking about it, but it may not have.
No.
But there is interest, I believe, from both Amazon and Netflix, kind of convinced that one of them will take it. But at the same time, and I've mentioned this before in the show, the last 2 seasons have consistently been in the top 5 shows on Disney. Now, normally, if there's a show that's a top 5 on a streaming platform with probably hundreds or thousands of shows, that really isn't a bad thing, and it confuses me as to why they would wait so long to decide. But this is the end of July, so like I said, by the time it comes out, it might be decided. But let's wait and see. If it's going to be any of those, I mean, I'm sure you've watched things on Amazon Prime and Netflix before. Just out of interest, who do you think would be the best sort of partner for Doctor Who?
The stuff I've watched on Netflix, some of it has been extremely good, but a lot of the time, what we tend to see is something that has a very, very good first series,
Yeah.
and then it tails off.
Yes. Apart from
My,
Breaking Bad.
again, that wasn't on my horizon. It didn't really appeal. So, I mean, I don't watch masses. So I tend to watch select items. And, and often things that my daughter says, you've got to watch this. It's really good. The most recent thing we watched was K-pop Demon Hunters, which was very, very interesting, very good.
Yeah.
Completely
Well,
bonkers, but
we shall see. We shall see.
what I'd say is that I think the most important thing is to have a good team behind it and keeping the creative and the commercial side separate. If Netflix want to invest in a team who are going to produce Doctor Who, then they need to let them produce the Doctor Who that they need to produce.
Yes.
Within the parameters and the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I've discussed this with my son and several people actually that Space Babies, for instance, was far too Disney, and not a lot of Doctor Who, in my opinion. But people have different opinions.
Yeah, I don't think that Space Babies was the worst episode in that series. I think that it actually did quite a good job. I think the title didn't help.
No.
But what it did do was it put Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson center stage and gave them a very linear story to tell. So they were very much the focus of the episode. So it was that first episode, it did what it needed to do. I actually quite thought there was a little bit of satire in there. There's a lot of fun. There was some in jokes. I would actually defend that against some other episodes in that series that I felt didn't work. So,
Well, I mean, everybody has their own opinion on those things,
absolutely,
and that's the beauty of Doctor Who, really.
Well, this is one of the things that one of the big projects that I've done that brings me into a lot of connection with fandom is my Doctor Who rankings project on X. When I started on X, everyone was saying, "How do you rate this episode out of 10? What's your opinion of this episode?" What I think, well, when you're ranking something out of 10, what do you mean? Are you saying, is it out of 10 compared to all media, or is it as an episode of Doctor Who? And different people will give different scores. I've done enough work on sort of getting people to rank things when you do things at work. We say, ask people to say, how did you enjoy this seminar? And some people will say 3 all the way down. It was okay. That was adequate. For them, that's a good result. Other people will say, yeah, it was great, even if they're not. And other people will always find something to complain about. So ranking something out of 10 is meaningless unless you've got the parameters. So the only way to get people to understand what they really think about all the episodes is to say, which one do you prefer? And so I thought, right, I'll start with Sylvester McCoy because there are 12 episodes, and I'll say, right, starting from here, the 12 stories, and rank those. And then I thought, well, why not do the whole thing? And it took me 18 months on the first go through to get all the episodes ranked. And I know that everyone will disagree with that ranking, but it has a feeling of a consensus. It appealed to my sense of numbers and statistics because I wasn't happy with that simple question. How do you rate this episode out of 10?
Yeah, I get you. My son is he enjoys ranking the episodes himself. So when every time he watches a new episode, it goes in his rankings. But he had to, not so long ago, add in the 0.5s because things were getting the same score, and it's like, well, I like that slightly better than that, but trying to fit them in is difficult. But it won't be long before he's doing point everything.
Well, the thing is, you in any episode of Doctor Who, and there are so many different things to look for. You can look at performances, you can look at the script, you can look at the visuals, and you can look at the overall lore and story and the direction. So, and different things appeal to different people. So some people are very keen on the emotional side that Russell T Davies has really brought out, particularly in his first era. It was all about the people. A lot of traditionalists like the very strong storytelling. I'm a fan of story. Story is what drives me.
Yeah.
But some of my favorite episodes are where there is superb dialogue and superb performances that probably more than actually the material warranted. And when we get on to talk about some of my favorites, we might cover some of those.
Yeah. Well, okay. Next then, this is an unusual one. So your favorite actor that hasn't played what I would class as a permanent companion or a companion that always travels with the Doctor. So, it's not your Amy's, your Rory's, your Clara's, your Sarah Janes, people like that. So I'm looking for an actor that's appeared in Doctor Who. It can be multiple times, who is not a permanent companion. And to give you an example, I would class Wilf, for instance, as
Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he was magnificent and brought a lot to those episodes. Some episodes which I thought were on dodgy ground story wise, particularly the David Tennant finale. That was really Bernard Cribbins' story. He made that worthwhile. But going back, I mean, in the new series, I love, my favorite new series episode is The Doctor's Wife, and Suran Jones was just perfect in that particular role. Again, I know it's a controversial choice because a lot of people didn't like it, but for me, that was, I loved that episode and loved that concept. But in the classic era, there are three particular performances that stand out for me. And I'll go them chronologically. Thursday. Okay. Christopher Gable as Sharis Jack.
Okay.
He's in episode 2 of Caves of Androzani, and Caves of Androzani is my all-time favorite episode. So that's one of the things. The dialogue between him, Peter Davison, and Nicola Bryant and Robert Glenister in that episode is probably some of the best drama you ever get in Doctor Who, because there's so much underlying tension and there's just sheer power of performance between the four of them, all firing on all cylinders. And there is a point in, I think it's episode 4, it might be episode 3, where he has to sweep everything off the table in a fit of rage. It could have looked over the top, but because his dance background, he did it with such elegance, it was just perfect. So that's one of my favorite performances. The other one from the similar era, Simon Rouse in Kinder. Again, he tried to find a line between that over the top madness and genuine, terrifying obsession. But again, that is another episode where most of the guest cast are really, really good. Nerys Hughes, Mary Morris, and a guy whose name I can't remember, who plays Ducker in the Vision with Janet Fielding. And again, Janet Fielding's performance is great. So again, but one I'm going to really pick on, and this is, again, someone who's been in Doctor Who an awful lot in various roles, but this particular performance, Philip Maddock in The Brain of Morbius, because he is basically playing a pantomime villain, but he plays it. It's a studio-bound episode, so it looks cheap. It's got some quite crazy ideas in it. Terence Dix was not happy with the changes to the script, but what Philip Maddock does is he takes this mad villain and he plays it absolutely straight, as though as though he was on stage almost. And I think that actually elevates that story way above a lot of the others at that time, because you're almost watching a stage play, because it is confined, and he's egocentric obsession. Morbius, obviously he's trying to save Morbius, trying to build Morbius' body, but he's actually more focused on my achievement to bring back Morbius. It's so obsessed and self-centered, and that comes across. So that's a performance. I love to watch really strong performances, and I think one of the things that particularly classic Doctor Who did, but also new Doctor Who, it got a lot of actors who were very, very good. A lot of them were sort of very big on the stage, and then gave them the opportunity to do a bit of work. It's a filler job, but they did it superbly. I've just recently rewatched City of Death, and Julian Glover clearly is just so classy. It's unbelievable. It's complete nonsense, but he gives it his all. So
cracking episode, that one.
Oh yeah, I watched it again very recently, and I thought episode 1 is actually really badly paced. It's self-indulgent with all the establishing shots in Paris, which are filmed in such a clumsy way. They actually look like a documentary. But once you shift to the studio stuff with Catherine Schell and Julian Glover and Tom Chapman and the dialogue, which Douglas Adams's dialogue really begins to shine. That is where the strength of the episode lies. Episode 1 is I think actually quite poor as a piece of television.
But it moves on.
Oh, absolutely. By the end, you think that is a very satisfying story, but it doesn't start well.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to something that's it's such an important question. So, take time, say whatever you want to say. But what does Doctor Who mean to you?
As I said, when I came to Doctor Who, I really, really became a fan. So we're talking that era, sort of late 79 to 80. It's something we'd always watch as a family. But my mum died, and I was 9 at the time, so it was a big change. And that year, my sister got married, my brother went to university. So from being a family of 6, we became a family of 3. Really, really big changes. And it was something that Mum always used to enjoy and watch with me. And so I think it was something that comforted me. And then I began to get into the books, and it was just, I've got a brain, it's saying about ranking, my brain is full of lists. And so when my friend, he had a copy of the 1980 Doctor Who Winter Special, which was all about the missing episodes in the archives. And there was a list at the back of all the Doctor Who episodes which were there and which were missing. And for me, once I saw that list, I was like almost hooked, because like, oh, I've seen that one, I've seen that one. I remember that one. Oh, and there's all these things that you could and could not say. And then I began to explore, and I got the Doctor Who program guide, which not only listed all the episodes and all the things, it had all the actors in as well. So it was just, at that age, you suck in information. And unfortunately, that information has stayed with my brain. So whenever we're watching something, I'll say to, oh, he was in that episode of Doctor Who, or they were in that episode of Doctor Who. I've seen them. So no, it's like my wife.
It's quite important. Quite important to you.
Oh, it's important. I did struggle with the return series. I wasn't, when they brought it back. I'll say I've been going through all the Wilderness Years. I was reading all the books, so I was still in the Doctor Who place. But I was thinking, I'm not sure. I wasn't too sure about the casting of Christopher Eccleston. I thought he was a good actor. Hadn't watched that much of the things he was in, because they didn't really interest me.
Yeah.
Billy Piper, I thought, whoa, no, that to me, it's stunt casting. We're back in Bonnie Langford territory. And so I was again, don't think so. But one day I got in the car, and I was on BBC, and they played a trailer, and it was just the TARDIS noise and then a little bit of the theme tune. And I thought, I'm actually quite excited about this. I'm quite excited. And I didn't want to be too excited, because I didn't want to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Now, I watched that first 2005 series. I thought Christopher Eccleston was superb, and Billie Piper was. I was surprised at how good
Yeah.
she was. So
Yeah.
I thought they did what they needed to do. But I've also tried rewatching them, and I when I rewatched them like a few months after they'd first broadcast, I felt Christopher Eccleston, his presence is covering an awful lot of cracks in the script. There was and I've said that story is important to me. There were issues around storytelling. Now, one of the things that worked was he had a number of different writers. And I think that was important because, again, some writers were more satisfying than others.
Yeah.
Even some of Russell T Davies's scripts were okay. But one of the things he did in that series that I didn't like was that, and he still does it to some degrees, often the resolution is not because of things that the Doctor has done. That just things just stop or something else happens that resolves things. Often they don't actually make a lot of sense. But for me, in that first series, the Doctor was not the protagonist he should have been. Christopher Eccleston's performance I cannot fault, but what he was given to do, I was slightly concerned with. When David Tennant came along, those for me, and again, I know this is not consensus, those cracks were even more visible. And
Right.
I actually, and because our daughter was quite an impressionable age,